dear friends, and welcome to Life of Love. I'm here with Victor Manzo. He is a chiropractor known as Dr. Vic. He's a business and spiritual mindset coach, a certified pediatric chiropractor, holistic wellness coach, and 3-time author and podcaster. So happy to have him here today. His most recent book is Decoding the Matrix, Powerful Tips for Unleashing Your Potential and Accelerating Your Spiritual Awakening. It came out this past May of 2022. Also, Dr. Vic has been known as the individual who helps people experience their dream life effortlessly. If I could say it effortlessly, that'd be good. How are you? Welcome, Victor.
I'm doing amazing. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited for our convo.
Yeah, me too. I enjoyed getting to know you in the meet and greet, and so excited to get into the conversation. Right? I mean, we have so much in common with empowering and living that dream life. We're all about living in magic and accessing that soul energy that makes everything just a little more yummy, right?
That's where all that's where the those things that we seek in life, that freedom we seek, and all the good stuff is there.
Oh, the freedom. I love to hear people talking about freedom because there's so much happening around that makes us feel like we might be losing freedom or that freedom isn't a focus. But to me, that's the core, to feel that freedom to be you, the freedom to be authentic and to have your purpose. No one can tell you what that is. So that's sort of the scary part, right? Like, it's all up to you to find out what that is. How have you helped people discover that source of freedom when they feel stuck or they think that they're living an authentic life, but when you start talking to them, you really realize they're sort of being controlled, like they're giving away their power. Can you go into that a little bit? I think it's such a powerful message.
It is. It's one of those things where it's the things that here's an easy one. What we get triggered so easily in today's world, right? So much more. I mean, it's so easy. You see many people, you go on Facebook or not Facebook, just social media in general, and you'll see arguing going on all the time. And I always look and I'm like, that's when you allow somebody, if somebody says something to you or whatever it may be, and you get offended or you get triggered in some way, that already you gave power away to let something else control you. Your well-being, your peace, and your calmness is not important. It's more important to create anger, frustration, annoyance, whatever that is to that person rather than staying calm and peaceful. The same thing, though, happens in life in so many ways because we're conditioned, and it's been going on for quite some time, to do all the time. We're always focusing on doing. We have in business, it's all about doing. Making more money, I have to do to make money. When it comes to a relationship, it's all about what I need to do in the relationship in order to make it successful rather than, or even with your health. Like when it comes to health, I have to do these things in order to be healthy. And I'm not saying, health, maybe we can make an argument there. But at the end of the day, though, that's not our power. That's our force. We're forcing things to be successful in some way, shape, or form. We're not stepping into the element of who we are. So we give that the power. It's the same thing when people try to do manifesting in their life and want to do the whole law of attraction thing. A lot of times what they're told and a lot of people share this, and it's so wrong in many ways, is that they're like, well, think about what you want to have and then have the feeling of what it is having it. That is giving your power away because the question is this, and I do this with clients a lot. Mm-hmm. When you do that, who has the power of creating those emotions? Is it you creating those emotions and stepping into those emotions, or is it the thing that you're thinking about that is creating those emotions? Now, for some people, they may think this is so simple and easy. How can that even be? But this is a very simplistic thing that creates so many errors and why these things, people don't achieve their dream life or don't align to it or get that freedom or whatever it may be, because you're allowing an event still to trigger you to have a response. The moment you lose the triggers is the moment you step back into your power. The more you focus on you, the essence of being, the beingness, who do you have to be, those kind of things in different elements of life, that is going to then step back into your power, which is natural. Like we're talking about the soul aspect. Well, the soul doesn't go chasing things. And when we're into spiritual elements, we attract everything to us. We think it and boom, it's there instantaneously. There's no time. We live in a 3D world. So in the physical realms, there's a little bit of a delay sometimes, but the same thing works. It's a being to attract into your life. one of the worst advice I've ever been given in life when it goes against this, and I love sharing this, is, just go out and chase your dreams. Now, we've all used that. We've either used it in our life or we've been told that, or both. I've said it in the past, and I've been told that many times. And it goes against the essence of who you are. Your dreams come to you. You don't go chase them. And we're starting to see that in today's world, where there's this shift going on of getting away from like what is classical physics and stepping more into the quantum realm and understanding how the quantum realm is, how we play in it, and how we can utilize that. Because what we're understanding about quantum physics is it's understanding the whole non-invisible world and how it plays a role on the physical. And we're just getting into this, and it's just so cool. But coming back to the power aspect, if we're focusing on what we have to do, or what are the things I have to do to, these are just verbiages to know that you're not in your power. Though, just saying, what is the things I have to do to be here? Or how am I going to get to this point? How am I going to, all those things you're forcing, and you're not stepping into your power of what you're naturally designed to do. And this is a huge thing that I see quite often.
I am just so happy to hear you say that. You're right. We're going through this shift, and even astrologically, we're stepping into the age of Aquarius. We're getting away from, being like getting a recipe A, B, C, D. We're gonna strive for this. We're gonna go for that. It's about creativity, and it's all in you. It's all in you. So you create, like, I think what you're saying is you create this container, like you allow the space within yourself. You're not shrinking or using your energy to go out. You're calling it in. It's not a manifesting. It's an actualizing, because you're authentic, and you're really living from that soul purpose. So the hardest thing to me is that I always go back to the old way. I know that I'm supposed to bring in the quantum and be calm and try to make my life as joyful as possible, because then I'm going to attract and I'm going to have a life that is abundant the way I want it to be, not based on what anyone else says. So I guess what I want to ask is what is something somebody can do to regularly return to that state, and what's a sign that you're slipping? Because, like you said, it's conditioned, it's epigenetics, it's all around us. We have to constantly, if you're not getting a material sign that you're doing the right thing, sometimes it's hard to know you are doing the right thing. So what's a sign that you're on the right path, or that, like you said, something to reset?
The stuff I teach is always getting out of our head, right? So when it comes to what's a sign or what's something, it's going to be a feeling. You can look at it tapping into your right side of your brain, because that's where our emotional centers are and so forth. But it's a feeling in the body you get. Now, for some, maybe like, I don't know, that's foreign to me. Well, just look at your emotions. If they're not in a state of bliss, calm, joy, happiness, I wouldn't say happiness, just joy, bliss, peace, and calm. If you don't have those emotions showing up, then you're not in alignment. You're forcing. That's where, because when we are in alignment with something, when we're in a state of flow, when we are out of our head and into this dance and really trusting that process, these emotions are going to show up. It's the natural state of the soul. So when we are in that space, those are the feelings that are going to guide us to know, oh, I'm in that space. And when we're not, when we have those low vibrational emotions, maybe fear, anger, worry, anxiety, all those different things, then all of a sudden we're out of alignment with things. And it's also, we're putting our focus on things that really are not in our aligned with our higher purpose. And so the emotions are going to show up. You're just going to wake up and not feel the greatest. You're just going to be in a mood, and you're just like, I don't know why I'm in this funk. And then you get worried. The fear, the mind kicks in, and then it's like, all right, time. I got to do something. I just got to do. And that's a default part of the brain. We all do this. I'm a type A driver personality. I come from a very workaholic family. And that's ancestral. So I even have farmers in my family from Italy, and the farms up in the mountains and all this stuff, and working and long days of work and all this stuff. And if I'm not careful, I will get into a work mode. My wife will hear it. She'll just be like, I have to do these things. I mean, she'll be, why do you have to do them? Is it the end of the world? And I'm like, no, but I want to get this stuff done. Okay, but is it needed at the moment? Like, can you spend more time, like maybe relaxing a little bit more, hang out with your daughter? I just had a newborn daughter. She's 3 months old now. So I get my 3-4 hours a day of just me and her time, and I love it. And if I can get more, I would definitely take that on. But it's one of those things where it's the point of understanding that when you have those feelings of you're feeling anxious, or this is what happens to me, I'll feel anxious, and sometimes I'll get fear in there and so forth kicking in. Just need to take a step back, and then I use the feeling to recenter myself, and then I don't act until I'm back in the proper place. This goes against Western philosophy, Western civilizations, how they think, because we all believe in force. That's just what that's been conditioned. When I say Western civilization, how long has Western civilization existed? This is some of the concepts that have been entrained for a very long time. And in the East, they don't. Lao Tzu, the creator of Taoism, someone who I love and appreciate his work. He has in his Tao Te Ching, I think it's verse 4, he says, if you feel like you have to do force, stop and do non-force and just do nothing. That is so against what we've been conditioned. But when you really tap into what he's trying to say, he's actually speaking in a quantum way. This guy was speaking 2,500 years ago, and yet he's speaking in a quantum way, which means come back and center yourself. Get your vibration back to where it needs to be. And from that moment, you act. Because you'll feel inspired to do something. Something's going to come. And when it does, you take action. And when you come from a place of a higher vibration, guess what? Your chances of success and seeing more to where you want to go, closing that future gap, happens a lot faster. So it's stepping into those feelings, becoming aware of your feelings and where you are.
You can get off the hamster wheel if you're feeling like you have to do. Then you step back and then you see your resources. I think that's what you express so well. I'm just paraphrasing because I just love it. I love your message. That if you're feeling pressure, if you're feeling like you have to force something, to step back, and once you're quiet and back into your centered, abundant self, you see what's available for you. You might see that it'd be easier if you made a phone call than to go do it yourself. Or, you might reach out to a friend who has done it before, and then you have connections, and it's all about us being connected. Like your child, you're more connected to the universe. And the more we connect to ourselves and everyone around us, the more efficient we can be, because we all want to help each other. And I think people just get sort of in a bulldog state of mind. I'm just going to put my head down and go after it. I'm going to just, put my jaw on it and suck all the life out of it. But that's not the way, right? You're saying the way to work with quantum mechanics, with quantum physics, you let it come to you. And it's ancient, right? But we've gotten into the idea, well, it was the age of the patriarchy. I believe it's Capricorn is more of that's what we're coming out of. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. I think it's Capricorn, but I know we're going into Aquarius, where what you're saying is that's the way to get things done. That's the way to exist on this 3D now. And I think that the people who have embraced this idea, they sparkle. And it's up to us to try to share these concepts, whatever way it hits you. If you're a science person, it hits you scientifically. If you're a spiritual, you feel the uplifting. I have lots of people that tell me their angels help get them there, help them feel like centered and peaceful and resourceful. But I adore that. I think one of the hardest things is, like you said, when you're triggered. So say you're in a relationship with somebody, and it's different on a social media because you can shut it off. But if you're living with somebody and you feel triggered in a relationship, or you have needs that you're not feeling respected or seen in a relationship, these triggers can be really deep, right? So what would be one of your key concepts with dealing with those triggers to returning to your center in a relationship?
And this can go to any relationship too, because it can be with parents, it can be with siblings, it can be with a partner, and it's one of these things where, again, coming back to about giving our power away. when you get triggered, we just become reactive. It's just humans, right? Especially in relationships, because relationships, the closer we are, the easy to have an electric, that energetic explosion where you have an argument or something. But I always love to ask the question, and this is where we return back to the power. When I work with coaching clients, we talk about relationship stuff. I tell them, I don't want to. You can tell me the story, but yet I'm going to be coming back at you. Like, I'm not going to talk about the other person. I don't know the other person, but I know you, and I know that all things are coming. You're experiencing things as they are, and everything's a gift. So if you can understand those things, then you have to ask the question: if I'm being triggered, why am I triggered? Why is this happening? Why am I allowing to get so bothered by this? And really just ask that question. You can't do it in the moment. So don't be like getting triggered and all of a sudden you're like, well, why am I being triggered? And your emotions are going to take over. Again, the thing like Lao Tzu says, just take a step back. Just take a step back and just really ask yourself that question. Why am I being triggered? And start looking backwards. You're going to find the answer. If you really tap into this, and you can't think through this. It's a feeling. But you can use thoughts to be like, okay, where did this start to happen? Who taught? Why am I, what's it getting to me so much? Most of the time, not always, but most of the time, it's all the time between age 0 and 7. Most of the time, it's going to be parents that taught us this, or some sort of figure. Like, when my daughter was born, I looked at my wife and I said, all right, I have to level up. I thought I was already doing a good job with us in our marriage and our relationship, but guess what? I got to level up even more now. And she's like, why is that? I said, because the way I'm going to treat you and how we're going to be and how all that is going to teach my daughter what it is, how a man should treat her. And I said, if I fail as a man treating you, then she's going to have a man that I'm not going to be happy with. And so, who's to blame, right? What will we do in a society? Give our power away, blame the person. But no, it was me at the end of the day. And so you want to look back and just, because it's always there. It's always there. Like, there's things my wife can say to me, and in my conditioning, right? Because here's how this kind of works. In my conditioning, the way I was raised and brought up, how it's built in my subconscious mind, I'm thinking that that's how my mom is talking to me, right? But my wife's not my mom. But yet, I'm thinking, because she said it in a certain way, I'm triggered because it reminded me thinking it was that. What does that really teach us? That's teaching us that there's things that are unhealed that we have to work on, that we have to learn to evolve from. And what's not better than sharing that with your partner? Now, for men, it's hard to do this because men don't like to get emotional. Again, that's a construct and a whole thing that's been conditioned. But when we can tap into that and get vulnerable, then all of a sudden it opens up the door. And with your partner, now they're learning more about you. And now what are you doing is you're strengthening your communication. All things fail in life because of a miscommunication. You can look at business, you can look at relationships, you can look at your health. I'm a chiropractor. If your brain's not communicating well to the environment, or the signals from the environment are not going to the brain properly, guess what? You're not going to be healthy, even if you don't have symptoms, because your body can't adapt as well. And so when we look at miscommunications, it comes to the point of how do we deepen that? Because then we get to understand each other's world better. And once you start, and that's the meaning of love to me, is understanding. Because when you really look at understanding the individual for who they are, you cannot love them more. You appreciate what they've gone through. You know that they've gone through a journey, and you're like, I'm going to try in my power to help support as much as I can. I'm not perfect at this. I still fail at times, and that's normal, and I'm always going to. But I'm always improving, though, as I go along in this journey. And so something as simple as that, by just asking the question, because triggers will always unveil either a conditioning or they unveil limiting beliefs. Right? Now, a trigger, for the most part, can also be something that you've taken from past relationships, thinking that the person is this because you're holding on to the past. So you're never going to evolve in your relationships. And one of the patterns you can see is you go from one relationship to the next relationship to the next relationship. You're like, why do I always attract this and this kind of relationship? There's twofold there. You're carrying on from the one before, and also there's conditioning. So this can get a little complicated, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. Instead of thinking this is going to be a whole new relationship and tapping into it and letting go of all your past experiences, you hold on to them. And what you're doing is this is a limiting belief, because what you're doing is something called self-sabotage. You're sabotaging yourself of what's potential for you, that what you really want to experience, by holding on to things. So there's a couple there. I can go deeper, but I'll leave it at that point for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that I could unpack a lot of that. I mean, to me, it's the ultimate and unconditional love because, you know, the person you're with is a good person. They're amazing. You wouldn't choose to be with them unless they were a good person, but they're human and they have free will and they're going to make choices that you're like, what are you doing? But I mean, that communication, like you said, is so important because like, like you said, that vulnerability makes you understand them better. It makes it lets them in. And I think so many times people are like, oh, I'm going to be strong. I'm gonna push through that, or I'm gonna ignore that, and just that's not important. And I know that just from personal experience, once my husband was able to be vulnerable and just tell me exactly how he was feeling, not blaming me, but just telling me his reality. I was like, oh, thank God, I can work with that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't work with somebody who just is, so strong that they're just perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? And then if somebody shows imperfection, then you're more free to be imperfect too. And it's just like this beautiful dance of acceptance, but it does take a lot of courage, right?
It does.
And
I mean, it's a lot.
so it's
But you're big.
and then to acknowledge when somebody does it,
That's
it's
that.
like, thank you, you did that. That's
Oh, I
huge.
wasn't taught this, so it took a lot of work, a lot of fails.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things too.
Yeah.
Like when you look at like a traditional
Same.
relationship, just to add a little bit onto this, is like for men, most of the time we are what is known as right brain weak, left brain dominant. And so, what does that mean? We're very good with language. We can very be straight point and direct. We're very good with that. Communicating to feel our emotions, we're not, right? Because that's right brain. We flip the script, go the other side. Females are going to be more right brain dominant, left brain weak. Now, this is not guaranteed. I mean, there's a chance of it being the opposite in relationships, but for the most part, what does that mean? Women feel, but it's hard for them to articulate what they feel. They'll say something. A male will come back and go, "Okay, so this is what you're feeling." No, that's not what I'm feeling. You're not listening to me. He's like, "This is literally what you just said." And then because there's the language, there's a disconnect between the emotions and the language, and so it's always a funny thing when it comes. So just understand that in a traditional now it's not always traditional. I really believe that in any relationship, there's always going to be left brain dominant and then there's a right brain dominant, and that's why we bind together in some ways too. And so there's always going to be someone who can't
That's
connect.
why we're
Yeah,
attracted,
it's one of
right?
the opposites attract. So just
Yeah.
knowing that part, then it helps both sides to go, okay, we're going to figure this out because neurologically, it's impossible. I don't know how we get together because we're from two different worlds. But at the same token, there are ways to bind those together.
I saw a really funny meme last week, and it was like, there's a woman just dancing like crazy, and then there's a man just sitting there like looking like he wanted to go check Sports Center, and the caption was, in every relationship, there's always one really fun one and one boring one. And it's just like so.
It is. I mean, opposites attract. My wife is extremely
Uh,
spontaneous. I'm not. I'm not saying I'm
mm-hmm.
not spontaneous. She's taught me how to be a little bit more spontaneous and get out of my way a little bit more. But I'm more very consistent and disciplined. This is just how I am and how I've been conditioned to be that way. And I kind of like it for the most part. But she's taught me to be a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more spontaneous at times, and I've learned to embrace that. Even when I want to fight it, I'm like, I'm just going to go with it. She's bringing something up, but then the same token, I'm like, well, if you're going to do that, then when I'm saying, hey, can you be a little more disciplined, and consistent? Just show that a little bit. So we're kind of compromising for both of us on sides.
I love it how you're maximizing your strengths and acknowledging her strengths, and I think it's a recipe for growth. And it's just like being curious, like asking what's going on here, and just like you said, sometimes you just got to let things settle. If you're in an emotional state, just got to let things settle and let the water clear so you can see what's actually happening. and be, centered in what your purpose is, what your joy is, and just share what that is, because we think that someone loves us, they should be able to read our signals and read our minds, and or this, that doesn't happen. We just you gotta communicate in a loving, accepting way. And if you're wounded, that's giving your power away, because you've let them wound you, right? It's like it's placing blame on that person because you're saying they wounded you. Maybe, like you said, it's a gift. Maybe that hurt is your gift to see and work through it, and never have to deal with that wound again. And if we can appreciate people for what they've shown us, like they've shown up for us, and it might not be how we wanted, but that's a gift to have someone to be in our field and show up in a way that lets us be vulnerable or work through things. I mean, I think we're coming to a place where we can honor each other in that way, and having just that perspective, I just really appreciate, and I really look forward to. I'm gonna grab your book, because I love how you described it, and I didn't get a chance to read it before we met, so I appreciate you giving us some glimpse into it, and it's timely. We need it. Everyone's working through a lot of stuff right now.
Very much so, and it's and the key thing on it all is just how not to let your mind get conditioned and controlled, and you stepping like for example, I hear, friends reach out and they tell me, look at the recession, look at all the signs of it, look at this, look at that, this is what's going to happen next. And I'm like, why put your energy there? And they're like, well, it's going to happen. I said, well, what you focus on expands. So you're becoming more of the problem. Focus on what you want to see happen. Focus on what you're excited about. Who cares if we go down that path? But if you stay focused on what you want to create, you're not going to be affected by it, or it'll be minimized. And they're like, well, how do you know? I said, well, millionaires came out of the Great Depression. Explain that one. Billionaires made 56% growth in their money, net worth, during COVID. Explain that one. I go, there's science to this. I'm not saying I'm an expert in this. I'm not saying I'm a master. I would never say I'm a master in anything. But I'm like, but there's principles that you can learn from. So just whatever you focus on expands. So put your energy into what you want to see. Same thing that comes like to a relationship. Focus on what you want to see happen in that relationship, and just keep your focus there, and don't get distracted by other things. It's harder to say, especially in a relationship, even in business too.
Oh, yeah.
Because like with money, right? Don't focus on the debt. Well, I'm just computing debt. That just keeps coming. Stop focusing on the debt. Focus on what you want to create. Focus on why you're doing this. Focus on what matters most. The money will take care of itself. In life, and this is one thing I always share people, if you look back at your life, everything always worked out the way it was supposed to. If you really look at your life and connect the dots, because you can't connect the dots in the moment, you can't connect the dots of the future, you're not there. All you can do and how to make sense with life is look at your rearview mirror and connect the dots from the past. And when you really get honest with yourself, you're going to see how everything worked out the way you needed it to. Everything works out for the better always. And that's something someone like myself, who's a control freak, used to be. I used to be this way. I had to control my destiny. I had to make sure everything was moving in the way I wanted it to move, and so forth. And now I'm like, it's going to be what it's going to be. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm going to achieve, but I'm not going to control how it gets there. I'm not going to control all that. I'm going to let that go. And I know everything's going to work out. I just got to keep focused on where I'm at, keep my focus on my vision, keep my focus on my energy. And as long as I do that, everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to. And I've done it so many times before, because I asked that question, right? I'm like, okay, I'm playing bigger in this now. And I look back and I go, okay, when did this show up? Well, look at this time in my life. Look at this time in my life. Look at that point in my life. And everything worked out. So it's just looking back and, build that confidence from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, the trust and the, just trust in you're in your value system. You're in control. I know it's easier to say than to practice, but I think that it's an ideal to work toward. You made me think of something. If you're in a situation, whether it's your job or your parenting or your spouse, if you're not feeling the way you want to feel, like, don't focus on that you're not feeling it. Think about how you could make it joy. Think about how you could make it what you want it to be, how you could make it cooperative. So many times we just want people to cooperate or to see. And if you're stuck in the idea that it's not going the way you want, you're not in resource. So to me, I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling energetic. I'm not feeling joy. And that's how it shows up to me. I'll get frustrated. And I want people to see that I'm frustrated, but that's not going to solve the problem. What I need to do is say, what could help me feel joy? What could help me feel cooperation? And then put that in the field. And like you said, we can change timelines. We can shift timelines. And just that idea is a powerful way to live.
It transforms everything. Because especially like another thing too is like in the quantum world, there's no time. You step out of it. And that's where you get to accelerate things and shift things and do so much magical things that can happen there. I'm not going to say you're going to see things happen instantaneously, although I've seen it in people happen. I always say, when somebody says, why can't that happen to me? I say, well, there's the law of vibration. It holds you back a little bit because your vibration has to work its way up. But once you hone that in and get there, it's a game changer. And it's so amazing how the magic of all that works.
Mm. Well, thank you for sharing your magic. There's so many pearls of wisdom and inspiration, and I love how you're authentic and you share how you used to be and how you've come along. And I feel like there's people that have been working for 20, 30 years in spirituality, and all of a sudden, like their abilities have been reached by somebody who just locks into some ideas like this. And right now people are accelerating faster than it used to be. Like you had to meditate and go to conferences and go to India and all. And now it's just like, oh, I listened to this podcast or I read this book, and it's people are talking about chakras. Like it's a common thing that people. And I'm telling you, like 15 years ago when I first started, being interested in yoga and feeling my kundalini, like you'd say things like that, or you'd say you went to yoga and people thought you were like a granola person 15 years ago. So it's just amazing. It's amazing how quickly things are changing and the veil's being lifted. So I'm really excited. I know that people like to freak out about the economy, and I agree with you. You have to look at all the things that are going right and all the things that are being exposed and all the progress we're making as humanity. We're waking up. We're saying no more. We're going to live free. We're not going to be part of your program. So I applaud you. Thank you so much for being a guest.
No, this was my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed the convo.
Yeah. Me too. And all the best. Thanks again. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to the next episode. As always, you can reach me at www.youneedapeptalk.com. Be well, my friends, and enjoy each day, as each moment is a chance to live the life of your dreams. Take care.